Hi everybody, and welcome to week 13 video. Today what I want to do is try to make it quick and efficient little trek through 3 different charities. There are actually 2 charities and 1 WordPress site with the idea that you should be taking a look at what other people are doing. That was one of my blog prompts a while back, asking you to report on other charities, other nonprofits. I don't remember seeing anybody reflect on that, so week 13 might be a chance to catch up on what other organizations are doing. I'm starting here with Charity Water, which hopefully you've read about in Network Nonprofit, and if you've been paying attention at all, you've probably seen them on social media somewhere, because they are hands down the most active, most high-profile nonprofit working right now, and they're getting a lot of credit for the innovative things that they are doing. You can see right here, your next birthday can change the world. You might have heard about them when Justin Bieber used his birthday to raise gobs and gobs of money for them. And there's lots of other really interesting things that they're doing on this site. Now this is obviously high end. They've got quite a team working on it, and it's not something that any of us could easily reproduce in a few weeks, but you can still learn from it. One of the things that you often see in the literature is make the donate bar really prominent, and what I would say that they've done is they haven't made it prominent in terms of size, but they certainly made it their first link, and so that's another way to think about prominence. It doesn't always mean huge, and then they can break it down from there. There's so many things here, I'm not possibly going to go through everything, but you can see that they've got the rotating banner as well. We've now flipped through to meet the founder. Again, a point that Network Nonprofit makes. You need to let people know something about your organization as well and the people behind it, and he's a pretty compelling guy, has a compelling story of his own, from especially his New York nightlife, running the bars and selling. I think his favorite line is, "I used to sell vodka for $700 a bottle, and now I build wells to give clean water to millions of people." Something like, it's a little catchier than that, but he's got a nice little hook that he can use as a contrast. And he seems good on video himself. They've been really successful with free agents like Justin Bieber, or here's a couple people who won't get engaged until they raise $5K for a well. I was trying to convince Betsy to help us raise a bunch of money for our anniversary tomorrow, April 10th, but we might have to wait a year on that one. But you can see also just the images that they're using are really professionally done. Again, there's a lot of work going behind not only the website, but every single image that comes up on here. And I think their final one, so they've also got a very clear slogan: water changes everything, that they use over and over again. They've got one more that I wanted to show you, or maybe I missed it here. Yeah, the proving every dollar is a really interesting concept. So what they do is they show you where your money goes. They talk about the dollar projects and tracking your money, and so this is something that people worry a lot about with their organizations. Where does my money go? Is it paying somebody's salary? All that sort of thing. And so they've really figured out how to work around that by getting private donors to pay their salaries, and then every dollar that you give, they will also not just throw it into a general pile, but they'll help you track it. And so they've got a massive team working on that. I'll let you work through the website to see how that actually works, but they're doing a great job with that part of the story as well. They get involved. They've got their Twitter feed, their Facebook feed, banners that you can use. So they're also encouraging you to sort of be their advertiser. Clothing industry figured this out a long time ago. Hey, people will actually wear our brand name on the outside, not just on the label. They're doing similar things with a Twitter background, letting people do a lot of advertising for them. They're clearly trying to get people involved with the birthdays and other events. Very clever use of the free agents. And then why water? You see that doesn't break down. This is their core story, and water changes everything. Definitely takes some time to look at some of their videos. Very high production quality as well. So quick overview of a very effective organization. I guess also, just notice the images that they use. The iconic images are very effective here, from the E. coli, the salmonella, cholera, to the images of the people that they use, back to their homepage where their water jug is their ultimate icon, but then they've got these really clean, simple, iconic images that they use throughout their project, 100% how we work. And then there's their contacts through there. So lots to learn from here, very difficult to replicate. I don't know exact size of their team, but it seems pretty significant. I think Network Nonprofit talked about how they also contact donors on their birthdays and do things like that, and so they're definitely engaged in a conversation that isn't all about, hey, can you raise money for us today, but it's about thanking them and about being part of their community. So definitely spend some time here. Then I would encourage you to find an organization that's closer to your size and your resources, and something that you can learn from, and perhaps if you're a little bit competitive, do something a little bit better than what they're doing. So I talked about my organization, African Soul, American Heart, the one that I work with when I have some free time. And the organization that we're always following, because they helped us out and they're ahead of us in this business, is the Dau Foundation. Similar story, actually working in exactly the same village in southern Sudan. But you can also see right off the bat, not nearly as high a production value as the Charity Water. Still a very attractive and professional website. Has the same kind of rotating banner here, but much smaller, less spectacular images here. You can see that they're providing different stories. One is just their updates from Sudan so this is a link to their blog. So perhaps in some ways not quite as strong in terms of the connections of these images out to the things that they're doing. You can see that they've got their donate bar also in here, about 3 or 4 in, I guess 4 in you would say if you count the home. And so in terms of placement, maybe not as prominent. They do provide you another donate now over here. So different ways to get prominence. One could be the order, one could be the repetition of the image, providing multiple opportunities. I think some of you might come to this. I did actually, as I was preparing for this, and noticed that What's New hasn't been updated since January 3rd and then December 11th. There's also, let's see, on here I had it, the blog, right? This is one of the challenges that the book talks about, is staying in contact with your people and using your tools effectively. We don't always do this at ASAH. They don't always do this at Dau Foundation. These are signs that we're not as big organization, not as many people working behind the scenes, and so they haven't updated that since December 15th, and they tend to, probably like us, update from the field when they're actually in southern Sudan and not on a regular basis. They recognize that John's story, John Dau, is a big part of their story, and so they make that fairly prominent. And then the clinic is the thing that's at the heart of their organization. You know, I might suggest to them, if they were so inclined to get my feedback, that this image doesn't work for them if the clinic is really the key thing. It is an iconic tree of Africa, more of Kenya really than of southern Sudan, but again showing perhaps that they're just trying to appeal to Americans and not to what they're working on. But it seems like there could be some things. I would say one of the things that we like about our logo is that we like the A-frame, the shelter house, if you remember that. So we think that works pretty well, and we try to work with the images that are appropriate for our organization. So, you know, they've got other things like join our mailing list. This is the blog here. I can go back to home. And you can see, you know, certainly a pretty good website, but I think one that's sort of more in our own range. It gives me some ideas about having to look into, I don't know right off the top of my head how they're doing this, whether this is through a sort of a rotating flash image that's been set up, which would create problems for your iPad, or whether it's they're using HTML5 and they're able to set that up. But it's probably something that I would need to look at for our organization, and it's probably a good idea to get that fresh content and use those images up front. So there's two organizations. One, the high end. You can see it's kind of interesting to go back and forth and see the difference in those two in terms of design and the cleanliness of the design here, with the really sharp lines up top and below and the strong images in the middle. And then the more modest but effective organization, and they've been very effective in building a clinic and maintaining it now for 5 years. They've got their 5 years coming up. And so think about an organization that's similar to yours and see what you can learn from it. The last place I wanted to stop was on WordPress. Jade generously generated this WordPress for NPOs page on Google Docs that I hope you've had a chance to look at. He's down here, he's got some nice links to themes. What I wanted to let you also know, if you haven't taken a look at it, is that WordPress itself features some of these organizations. Now this is WordPress.org, so these are organizations that are downloading and installing WordPress. A little bit more complicated than what we're doing with WordPress.com, but not, I think, outside of the reach of possibility, especially those of you in the web and new media design program. But so here they've got organizations like this one, so it's called the Showcase. Let me drop back, I was inside of one. Oops, no, I've dropped back too far. Let me click back a couple times here. The other way. So this is the tag for nonprofit. So they've got a Finding Hope blog, so one dedicated to cancer. This Outside the Wire was the one I was looking at. Cure International, nonprofit that performs medical surgeries. And so you can see that if you go into one of these, I haven't looked at this one closely, but if you go into these, you can see some of the elements of a WordPress site that we've been working with, but also highly customizable. These sites probably do have a designer working with them, so it's not just straight out of the box. But you see a little bit more of what we saw on Charity Water in this particular one. Strong middle section in there. Got Tim Tebow endorsing them instead of Justin Bieber, kind of interesting. And then pretty strong banner up top here. I won't try to walk you through all this one, but just again to point out, my key point here was that WordPress.org has a showcase for nonprofits, and so you might be able to come here and learn something from them. So I'm going to stop there. Hopefully I'm not anywhere close to 20 minutes today, and encourage you to check out the pros, find something close to your range. Definitely check out some of the showcase that are using WordPress specifically if you're in one of the groups that's looking at doing a WordPress site for your organization. And then of course, come back to our home base. Let me see. Come back to our home base and share something about that. I think as you finish up your reports, your strategic plans this week, hopefully that'll give all of you a chance to get on and certainly reflect on this process. Jess posted one, I think just today, about her process, a short entry, I'm still alive, sorry, just talking about the fact that she and her group have been working pretty hard on that. But definitely as you finish up your organization's report, remember your personal blog, come back here, tell us how that process went. She reflects on a fairly positive engagement with her group and with Google+, and then of course come back to electronic communication and remind us that you're still alive and that you're still posting blogs. I will talk to you again next week. Hope everything goes well.